Hi, we are Jamie and Aidan, and last August we hopped on a plane with no return ticket. Since then, we have been travelling around the world and working online. Thank you so much to anyone who has subscribed and been on this journey with us. Hi, so you've just got me. In the video, Aidan is feeling a little bit unwell and he's still working, bless him. So he is working in the other room. I'm going to film this video for you. I'm really excited to kind of put it all together. I don't really know all the totals. I've seen them from time to time, but I've never kind of thought about them. So it's a bit of a surprise for you and for me. Let's get into it. So far we have travelled all over Southeast Asia before heading a little closer to home and visiting Ireland, one of our favourite countries in the world. If you want to see any of our adventures, check out our channel and we hope that you find some helpful or entertaining videos. So today we are going to talk about spending. We are going to include everything that we spent over a year of travel. It's been one of our kind of requested things. People ask a lot about how much we actually spend, and from everyone else's that I've watched on YouTube, these kind of videos, or maybe on Instagram, people putting their monthly totals, I think you'll be quite surprised at how much we actually spent. There's a few ways that we keep track. We've spoken about this app that we used before. It will be here. I can't remember the name of it. It's something like Daily Travel Budget Finder. And the way that we use it is every single time we spend something, even if it's just in cash, Aidan writes it down. And if we've kind of had a day when we haven't been so great at it, maybe we've been really busy and kind of forgotten, we can usually look back at receipts maybe and check or maybe estimate and round up how much we've spent, and we put everything into this app. This is our basically lifesaver when it comes to budgeting for us. Another way that we also keep track is we check our online banking. Most banks that you'll be using if you are traveling should be travel banks. If you don't have any yet, then we speak about it in other videos. I will link the other video that we talk about it so you don't end up repeating everything. But having a bank like Starling or Revolut that you can travel with is a really, really good tip to save a lot of money. Otherwise you're going to be spending a lot of money on kind of the overseas fees that you may have with your home bank. So yeah, getting a travel bank, keeping an eye when you're online banking on how much you're actually taking out to use if you're using cash is another way that we keep an eye on how much we've spent. The last way that we try and keep track is we want to know how much we spend every day. And it doesn't really matter every day, more of kind of an average. So we know if we have one quite expensive day, maybe the next day we'll try and keep it on the cheaper side. But for us being two people, and everything that we're talking about today is for two people, we try to stay under £40 a day. This is kind of our budget, our aim. We want to keep it under. If we spend more one day, then the next day we try and spend less and make it average kind of over the week or the month. But yeah, £40 a day is our aim. This obviously can be hard depending on what country you're in. So if you're in a very expensive country, if you are traveling Europe or maybe North America, it's going to be more expensive. You might have to change your budget. We did in certain countries, but this is what we try and stick to always. Also, for most of this video, we're going to be talking in pounds. If there's anything that we're mentioning that isn't in pounds, we will include the conversion so that it makes sense to everyone, because we know you don't all use pounds like us. And just before we get into all of the countries and all of the numbers and figures that you actually want, I am just going to say the few things that we haven't included in this. The first one is our phone bill that we pay back in the UK because we still wanted to keep our numbers, so we just kept paying for that. That was kind of minimal. We were in a contract, but we don't need to include that because it's not a travel expense. Also, we haven't included our travel insurance. This one again is just something that we pay on a monthly basis anyway. And also when we were traveling, we bought maybe some kind of things for ourselves, like when we were in Bali, my laptop broke and I had to replace it. We invested in some gear for our YouTube and that all got quite expensive, but it didn't really count towards what we were spending on actual travel. And if you are not making YouTube videos, then you're not gonna spend this. So we really want our spending to help you work out how much to budget, how much money you kind of need to save or you need to earn whilst you're traveling. So we haven't included those ones, and sometimes we didn't include flights, but mostly we did. So a little bit confusing, but it will all make sense when we get to it. The main flight that we didn't include was our flight from the UK to our first destination, and also from our last country back, because that's going to be different for everyone. It kind of depends where you're coming from, how much you're going to spend on that. So all of those things aren't included. Everything else is: food, transport, accommodation, everything. So exclude those, remember that. There's a few extra things, otherwise here we go. Okay, so we thought that we could go country by country. So the first country that we landed in all the way back in August was Indonesia. We spent 2 months here. We stayed in Bali for a long time. We also visited Lombok for a couple of weeks, which we'd never been to before. That was a really exciting island to see. And we spent a couple nights on Gili Tea as well, which was a lot of fun. Obviously, if you want to see those videos, check them out. They're not the best because they're our first YouTube videos, but they are quite fun to watch if you want to know what it looks like. So our first spending, this is for the 2 months. We spent £2,031. This worked out a daily average of about £38 for both of us, which was great. It meant that we were off to a really, really good start with budgeting. We were off to a really, really good start not going over budget, and we kind of knew, okay, if we keep this up, then we can keep traveling for a while. So we felt really good at the start. Next, Vietnam. Now, we had visited this country back in 2019. Aiden had actually spent quite a lot of time there, living there for about 6-7 months. So we knew this country quite well, and we knew that we definitely wanted to go back to it and include it on this trip. So for our first visit to Vietnam, we just wanted to chill out for a little bit. We'd been moving around a little bit when we were in Indonesia, and we just wanted to stay in one city. So we chose Hanoi. We knew it very well. It's the capital, and we got an apartment from Facebook Marketplace. So we just had the one kind of apartment for the whole month. We stayed there a month, and that meant that we could actually spend a lot less than traveling around, paying for different accommodation, paying for buses or maybe flights or trains. So this made it a bit of a cheaper month, which was good, kept us on track. So you can see up here our total around £1,288, which put us a little bit over for our average daily spend, which is not great because we wanted this month to be really low, but it's not terrible. And if you actually add it with the Bali one, it would have meant that we were completely on budget. Country number 3 was Laos. Aiden had visited before, but I really wanted to see it for myself. We took a very, very quick 5-day trip to Luang Prabang. It worked very well with the timings of our visas, and we decided that we only wanted to spend a short time here. So yeah, 5 days in Luang Prabang. It was so much fun, and also it was probably the cheapest country that we went to over our entire trip. Honestly, it was so, so cheap. We did quite a few activities as well, so we didn't just stay inside. We stayed in dorms in a hostel. We met some people, we went around with them, went to the waterfalls, did quite a lot, and in those 5 days we only spent just under £150, which I think is great. That gave us a great daily average, really put us on track. We should have stayed there for longer because it was so cheap, just to get us ready for kind of the next countries, which would be a bit more expensive. In hindsight, yeah, we would have stayed a bit longer because it's a really great country. I would love to definitely visit it again, see some more areas, and hopefully we will get the chance to in the future. Now for our 4th country, one of our favorites, we went to Thailand. So Aiden and I, back in 2019, actually already started a backpacking trip. We went to a few different countries, mostly Indonesia and Thailand and Vietnam. Aiden did a couple that I didn't go to. We were on and off with our traveling. But when we say that we visited these countries before, we're always talking about a trip that we did back in 2019. We had to cut it short because of everything happening at the start of 2020, but we are glad to kind of come back, revisit these countries, see how they've changed. But if we keep saying we've been there before, that's when we did it, back in 2019, our original first kind of backpacking trip. If you do have any questions about something that we're saying, sometimes I forget that maybe you don't know or we haven't mentioned something in this video. If you've got any questions, just put them below. We reply to every single one. We love reading them and hopefully we can help you. So yeah, anything else you want to know, write it in the comments. In Thailand, we landed in Chiang Mai, which is a city in the north, and we absolutely love the north of Thailand. We travelled to the mountainous northern town of Pai, which is very backpackery. If you want to know, it's actually one of our favourite places in Southeast Asia. So if you are heading to Thailand, try and include it in your itinerary. So Thailand then got a little bit split up because we had to go down south and we were meeting my family who were coming over. So let's just talk about the northern Thailand part. We spent this much. Then we got the train down to Bangkok, met my family and flew to Phuket, and we spent a lot more money. Obviously, we already knew this. Our family was coming. We weren't going to be staying in dorms. We were staying in more expensive places, doing a lot more, eating at nicer places. So we knew we were going to spend more. So this is actually what our total came out to for that part of the Thailand trip. In 11 days, we spent just over £600, which isn't too much. It felt like a lot when we were there, especially for 11 days, but we had such a good time that it was definitely worth it. As you can see so far from all of our daily averages, we are well over. The only time that we were under £40 was back in our first country of Indonesia, so we're not doing great so far. Not good, because the next countries that we go to are surprisingly expensive. After Thailand, we flew to Cambodia. We landed in Siem Reap and saw the amazing sight that is Angkor Wat. It was really something that we'd always looked forward to and planned to see, and we were so grateful when we finally got to do it. We also travelled to Battambang, Phnom Penh, which is the capital, and some islands like Koh Rong. So we really went all around the country, which was really fun to see kind of the length and breadth of this country that neither of us had ever been to before. We were in Cambodia for a total of 3 weeks and we spent £1,085.82, which is a lot, definitely. The thing that cost a lot in Cambodia that we didn't realise before we went, because a lot of people told us that it was very, very cheap. It was cheap for the food, that's definitely true. It was cheap for most of the activities, but the thing that was expensive in Cambodia that we didn't realise was the accommodation. Especially when we were on Koh Rong, we understand it's an island, there's not as many kind of places to stay, but we spent about $20 a night, which yes, doesn't seem like a lot, but was a lot more than the rest of the country or the rest of the countries in Southeast Asia. That was a big spend for us, and it meant that we kind of couldn't stay for as long as we wanted to because it just wasn't in our budget. So unfortunately, the accommodation in Cambodia all over was a bit more expensive than we thought. Yeah, and it put our daily average up a little bit. Next, because we don't like to make sense, we flew back to Vietnam. In this trip, you'll see that we repeated a few countries a few times. This is because, one, we love them. Two, when you are working, you have to travel a little slower, and if we knew that we'd been really busy, not working as much, we needed to put time in to our projects, then we would go to a country we've been before to slow down a little bit. And three, because we'd want to see more of the country, experience more of the food, go to different cities. So this is why we ended up back in Vietnam. But we landed in the south this time. We checked out Ho Chi Minh. We then worked our way up from the south to the centre. We saw places like Hoi An and Da Nang and Hue, and really fell in love more with Vietnam. Seeing the kind of differences between these cities and what they offered, the natural beauty, was just amazing. So perfectly on budget, we got a daily average of £40, which was great. It's what we needed after spending a bit more than we thought in both Thailand and in Cambodia. So we were really, really happy that we managed to move around but also keep it cheap. So if you are looking for a cheaper country, then Vietnam is probably for you. It's still kind of on par with Thailand and maybe Cambodia. It's the slightest bit cheaper, as you can see from our totals. Then we went back to Thailand. It honestly is one of our favourite countries in the entire world, so visiting just once in this trip definitely wasn't going to be enough for us. In this trip, we spent a lot more time in Bangkok. We stayed in one hostel, I think, for maybe 3 or 4 weeks. So we spent a lot of time in the city, which some people really don't understand. I think when we live back in England, we do not live in cities, we live in small towns, so it's quite exciting to be kind of in the hustle and bustle of a city, and Bangkok is a really good one to choose. There's everything you could need, from kind of cheap places to stay and street food to really expensive shopping malls and really nice hotels. When we were in Bangkok, we were so lucky we got to do both extremes, and we really, really enjoyed these 45 days in Thailand. After Bangkok, we went down south. So we kind of went to a couple of islands, mostly Koh Samui, and just all the way to the southern border. Overall, we spent £2,156. That's quite a lot. This puts our average at £50 a day. Oh no. So yeah, I think being in the city, we ended up spending a bit more. It's a little bit more expensive in Bangkok compared to maybe places in the north that we were used to. Also, if you're going down south in the islands, they are more expensive too. And of course, doing a bit of travel is quite a big journey from Bangkok to Koh Samui and then Koh Samui down to Hat Yai. So we spent a lot of money, I'm guessing, on travel, hopefully. Otherwise, I don't know what we spent money on, because that's quite a lot for 45 days in Thailand. If you can tell by our route of going down south, we then border crossed and we went to Malaysia. I was really, really excited to visit this country. I hadn't heard an awful lot about it. Aiden and I had never visited there before, so we were really excited to see what it's about. We'd kind of seen pictures of maybe Kuala Lumpur, and we really wanted to check it out. There were many surprises in this country, one of them being how expensive it was. Luckily, there was a lot of street food, which helped us keep our kind of budget down. The street food was amazing and super cheap. We also stayed in a lot of dorms, which is obviously cheaper than hotels or private rooms. Overall, we spent just under 1,200, which put our daily average way up. This was not great for us because we knew our next country was going to be very expensive. Work out, if you can see our route going down south, what our next country is going to be. Yep, you guessed it, we went to Singapore. Honestly, this country lived up to expectations. It was amazing and definitely a place I would like to go to again. I'm happy that we got to see it one time at least. We were only there for 4 nights, but we had such an amazing time. There's so much to do, so much to see, that if we went again, I'm sure we could find another 4 days worth of things to do. All of these activities do, however, add up, and we spent actually £608 for the 4 days. The thing that was expensive was the accommodation. We paid for 2 nights in a dorm, but we also collaborated with Ibis Budget, which is a hotel that is budget friendly. So if you do want to stay in Singapore but you have seen how expensive some of these hotels are, then Ibis Budget is definitely for you. It has really beautiful rooms, it even has a rooftop pool and breakfast included. A really great way to kind of get your night's rest and start the day ready to see everything that Singapore has. After Singapore, we went for a trip to South Korea. And when we say that we were blown away by it, We really, really mean it. This is probably the highlight of the trip for me personally, was seeing South Korea. I'd always wanted to visit this country, and I'm so glad that we got to see it, despite it being very expensive. We spent 6 days there. Our daily average was around £84. That's okay though, because we did so much. We saw the Seoul Tower, we went to palaces, we did some shopping, we had Korean barbecue. We genuinely fit so much into these few days, and that would be my tip. If you are planning to go to a country that's a little bit expensive, then just pack everything into a few days so that you don't have to keep paying for accommodation and food. You will be a little bit tired out at the end of it, but it will be so, so worth it. At this point, you can tell that our budget had been very, very stretched. So we flew back to Vietnam, a country that we knew we could spend less money in. The main reason for Vietnam was because we knew that we liked it. The rest of the countries that we were thinking about kind of had iffy weather at this time, and also we had a lot of friends that were going to be in Vietnam, so it all just kind of made sense and took us there. We again spent a lot of time in the capital, in the north of Hanoi. We were there for I think just under 2 months. Overall, we spent £1,122.80. We didn't really get up to much. We were working a lot and also just relaxing. We'd done such fast travel for a while that we just needed to slow down, which is exactly what we did. After Vietnam, we booked our flights home. So overall, this all added up to kind of about 11 months worth of travel. We took a quick stop in England to obviously drop off our bags, see family and friends, do a little bit of extra work. We're not going to include what we spent here because it was being at home, living with parents. It just doesn't count to what we spent traveling. So our last travel stop that we're going to include that was encased in the year of travel is we flew to Ireland. If you haven't seen our latest videos, then make sure to check them out because we had a lot of fun filming them, and we hope that you will enjoy watching them too. There were many days when we were in Ireland that we actually didn't spend anything, which was great because we were spending time with family. We were in the south of Ireland, kind of in smaller towns and cities, and it was just a lot cheaper than kind of traveling around different parts. So we're not going to include that, but we will talk about our 2 nights that we spent in Dublin. This was the first time for both of us visiting the capital. We'd both been to Ireland before, Aidan many, many times, but we'd never even seen the capital. So we had a lot of fun going around different cathedrals, different parks, going into restaurants and Irish pubs, just really getting to know more of Ireland. Yeah, we had a great time. Overall, we spent 2 nights there in kind of 3 days. We spent just about £100 a day, which isn't too much for 2 people in a capital city in Europe, but it was a lot for us and more expensive than we were expecting. So this definitely surprised us. Maybe it doesn't surprise you, but it surprised me for sure. And then we flew back to England, which is where we are now. We're preparing for our next trip. We're not going to give anything away. If you do have any guesses, let us know, and make sure that you have notifications turned on so you can see when we are on our next trip. It's going to be very, very soon, I promise. Okay, so you have seen an overview of all the countries we've been to, our crazy route of going here, there and everywhere, and you have heard everything that we spent. So here is our grand total. Okay, I'm gonna have to read this one off the screen because it's a little bit long. So overall, in a year of travel, everything that I've just mentioned added up. We spent £13,541.67. Oh my goodness. It sounds like a lot, doesn't it? But that is 2 people. So let's round it up to 14,000, a number I can work with. Divided by 2 people, £7,000 each for 12 months of travel, seeing so many different countries, having so many different experiences. Yeah, I think it was worth it. We worked really, really hard for this. We'd been preparing before. We gave up a lot back in England, and we worked the entire time that we were traveling. So this money that we spent was definitely spent wisely, but it was definitely earned too. So I'm going to give you some quick fire tips that we used while we were traveling to stay on budget. A lot of people were surprised by how little we spent. £7,000 each isn't a lot at all. So here are our tips on how to save money when you are traveling and backpacking. Number 1, travel slowly. If you are going to country to country to country or city to city to city to island, then you are going to spend a lot more money. If you are in accommodation for a longer time, you can negotiate a deal. You can kind of find the cheapest places to do your laundry. Traveling slowly definitely saves money. Number 2 is the opposite. I've already mentioned it. If you are in an expensive country, limit your time there. Spend only a few days there, work out what you want to see, work out how long it's going to take you to do, and only spend the kind of minimum amount of time there. Number 3, if you stay in dorms, you are going to spend a lot less money than if you are staying in a hotel or private rooms. We know it's not for everyone, but if you can hack staying in a dorm, then that's the way that you're going to save so much money. Number 4 is eating the street food. Compared to eating in restaurants, you are going to save so much money, and also it's amazing. Sometimes you're a little bit you're a bit scared about whether eating it is going to be okay, is it going to make you ill, is it even going to taste nice, but genuinely some of the best food I've ever had in my life came from street food in our year of travel. Number 5 is booking your transport not through your accommodation, not through a travel agent, online. We always use 1-2-go. When you go to a travel agent or to your kind of hostel and ask them to book it for you, they're going to give you the price that's already included a bit of a markup, and all they're going to do is book it online for you. We've had people that have done that for us before, and they print out the 1-2-go thing that we could have bought ourselves. So if you're booking any transport, buses, boats, anything, then use 1-2-go. We will link everything here and in the description. Check it out. It is one of our best money saving tips. And the last one is, if you are flying from country to country, use a website that looks for the cheapest flights. We always go with Skyscanner. We think that this is the kind of one that makes sense most when I'm looking at it. I can see day to day, which is going to be the cheapest day to fly, and also the flights when kind of the timings and everything. So of course we will link that again. Skyscanner is a really good one to use if you are looking for flights. Okay, there were those quick fire tips on how we saved money when we were traveling. Well, that's everything. If you have made it this far, thank you very much. It's just been me and the camera and my screen and everything that I'm reading. So I hope it all made sense for you. Thank you for watching. If it was helpful, make sure that you give this video a like. We would love to know though if you think that we spent a lot. If we spent a little, are you surprised by our totals? I'm really surprised. When we were traveling, I felt, oh my gosh, we're doing really well, we're on budget, and then I was thinking, oh, how are we ever gonna afford this? We're really over budget. But you can see anyway, it kind of all works out in the end for us. We're here to tell the tale. But we hope that if you are doing a similar route, or if you are visiting any of these countries, that now you know a bit more information about what we did, where we went, and how much we spent. Of course, if there are any more questions, like I said before, let us know in the comments. We will see you for our next video. Hopefully Aiden is well enough again to film one. We will send him some good thoughts. And otherwise, thank you so much for watching. We will see you next time. Bye.